permit me to briefly recognize the eccentric echelon of university. And also to recognize the vision-driven students who have traveled all the way to attend this historic conference. I want to assure you that already the baby inside of me leaped when I stepped into this venue. I can't wait. Influence my world from what I've gathered from this conference so far. Thank you very much, the organizers of this conference, for this opportunity to speak. All the glory to God who have made my abstract to be counted among those that will be presenting here. Well, my presentation is very brief and straight, but I can assure you that in Latin, the impactus extremus. The simple title of my presentation. We have before us here the comparative analysis of parameters of physical development and functional development of Ukrainian and Nigerian students. Now, why is this important to us? We have the privilege of studying in this country amidst Ukrainian students, but we must understand that it's not by coincidence. There are certain things we must learn that will also help our health. Now, next slide. We made a very simple research. I and my lecturer, Dr. Yuri Bobrik, in the Department of Physiotherapy, we did a simple research to see how does the parameters of physical development and also functional conditions of individuals affect their health. So, first of all, let me just give a brief introduction. What is physical development? We all know physical development involves what? Biological, psychological, and what? Mental development that takes place between between adolescence and adulthood, isn't it? And then what do we understand by, next slide please, by anthropometry? Anthropometry are just simple parameters we use to assess the conditions of physical development. Listen, any student who has been baptized with knowledges of first to third year must have been endowed with what anthropometry is. So I don't have to explain in details what this is. Next slide. Next slide, please. Alright. So what are the basic anthropometric profiles we have? They include the weight, the height, the chest circumference, spirometry, and dynamometer. We have to narrow it to this because there are many parameters we have used, but these ones are the most important. Next slide. And then what are the functional parameters we involve? Respiratory rate, pulse rate, and what? And the blood pressure. Alright, next slide. So what is the actuality of this thing? We understand that the cardiovascular system has a lot of correlations with what? Parameters of functional development like heart rate, pulse rate, respiratory rate. And so we engage some certain tests, which we'll see in the next slide. Some specific tests like orthostatic tests, clinical orthostatic tests, Stange and Gensch tests. I believe these are not strange words to any faithful medical student. Yes. You must have been, in one way or another, endowed with these knowledges. But I will explain them as time goes on. So we understand that orthostatic test is used to measure the difference that occurs in the blood pressure, in the heart rate, when a patient changes position from what? Horizontal lying down position to what? When he stands up. Then Stange test is used to measure the ability of an individual to hold their breath, isn't it, after inhalation. While Gensch test is the same test, but after what? Very good. Next test. Next slide, please. Alright, so the aim of this research, as I already stated, is I have to use the word Ukraine-Russian because in the midst of the students we use, there are some were not pure Ukrainians, some were hybrid. They were mixed. Okay, so what were the materials and methods we used? Okay, we simply called forth 20 students, 10 male, 10 female, Ukrainians, then 10 male, 10 females, Nigerian students, within the age range of 20 to 25. What did we do? Next slide. What we simply did was, okay, move to the next slide. Okay, so I'll explain. What we simply did was, we gave them a questionnaire, and they filled their personal data, and then we did the same test for each and every one of them. So, what an interesting result we had. We discovered that Nigerian students have an average rate of what? 69.6 average, while the Ukrainian student had 58.2. It's clear, we way higher than Ukrainian students, but it's not by weight. Next, we saw that we also have an average height higher than that of Ukrainian students. But we see a difference when it came to the issue of chest circumference. We are tall, but not broad-chested. Unlike the Ukrainian students that are not very, well, averagely tall, but they are what? Broad-chested. And when the result of clinical orthostatic and Gantt and stent test came out, we discovered that in the next slide, please, the Ukrainians had better adaptation to stress compared to the Nigerian students. I will explain. You see here, this is comparison of weight of females between Nigerians and Ukraine. Nigerian student females way higher than Ukrainian students. Next slide, please. Also, the males of Nigeria way higher than females of Ukrainians. Next slide, please. All right. In general, this is general weight comparison. You see, the difference is very clear. Next slide. Now, look at this table. This table shows a brief summary of the entire results. See spirometry. Ukrainians had better spirometry results compared to Nigerian students. So it means the weight and the height doesn't really count when it comes to what? Functional adaptation. Check in terms of right-hand dynamometry, left-hand dynamometry, it means we have more agility. But when it comes to functional adaptation, next slide please, we discovered that we were lacking. Okay, just take a look at standard tests for males. Ukrainian students had better standard tests compared to what? Nigerian students. Next slide. Gantt test, the same thing. Next slide. Okay, this is a summary of all the functional test results. And it was clear that, next slide, I make my conclusion. All right. These three major conclusions, that there is a better response and adaptation of what? The Nigerian students to, the Ukrainian students to stress compared to the Nigerian students. And then we saw also that males from both countries had higher adaptability than females, and the cardiorespiratory reserve of Nigerian students is generally better than that of Nigerian students. So as a roundup, I just want to make this recommendation, please, next slide, that in the curriculum of medical studies, it should not just be that physical rehabilitation or exercise should be in only first and second year as we have in some schools. It should be from first to the sixth year. So that and then students should also improve personally their adaptation and reaction to stress. So I want to recommend that further research be carried out in this field, because we only use two criteria. I believe there could be other criteria that can be used to assess how well we can better adapt to stress. Thank you very much.
Please clap for him. You enjoyed his presentation already. Please put your hands together.